On this week's edition of Bet On It, those barking dogs that have been red hot are back. We've got a trio of top 25 games. Is Marco's Deli back open? We're going to find out. Of course, the steam room from VR, all followed by those best bets. Up next on Bet On It. I'm Kelly Stewart. You guys know me as Kelly in Vegas. In the middle, we got Gianni, the Greek gambler on all your social media channels, and Marco in Vegas. Marco D'Angelo, you guys know him. He's one of the founders here of WagerTalk. We're going to get into these top 25 games. And Marco, I'm going to start with you. 12 p.m. kickoff here on the East Coast. Number 17, Texas Tech, is now a 3-point underdog. And number 16, Utah, total 57.5. Marco, please break down this Big 12 early kick there on the West Coast.
Yeah, Kelly, that's the odd part of this game. You've got this game being played in Utah, and it's kicking off at 12 noon Eastern. Really odd start. But you know what? You look at these two teams, Kelly, the knee-jerk reaction here when you look at what the scores have been with both of these teams so far this year, and you look at the total of 57.5, immediately you're going to want to bet the over in this game, but don't go that route, and I'll tell you why. Starting with the fact, coming into the season, I was very, very high on Utah. Remember when we did our preview shows, they were my sleeper to win the Big 12. I also released to my clients a 5% major wager on their season win total over. I love this Utah team. And the reason for that is I said coming into the Big 12, I said they are built like a team that nobody wants to face in the Big 12. I referred back to their last few years in the Pac-12, why they were so successful. This was a team that dominates ball control. They will pound the ball down your throat. They have a passing game to complement their running game. But where they get you is the physicality on both sides of the football on the line. They play defense, and they play a physical brand of football. The Pac-12, that was a finesse conference. The Big 12, what are they? All offense, no defense. Nobody wants to line up against them. Now, with that said, I am looking at this game to go under the total because Utah is going to do what they do best. They are going to run the football and throw the football. And their quarterback, remember, last year, the problem with Utah wasn't the defense, it was the offense. They had no consistency. Why? Because every week, Cam Rising was questionable for this team. But come in, Devon Dampier, and this team is rolling offensively. But what they'll do is going to play ground control here, keep Texas Tech's offense on the sidelines for long periods of time. What's the best way to beat a high-flying offense? Don't let them on the field. They get frustrated once they finally do get on the field when you watch those 5, 6, 7-minute drives. That's what you're going to see in this one and eat some clock up. I am going with this one under the total, 57.5. Obviously, I'm rooting for Utah in this game with that season win total over. I think they are the better team. I may get to the window with them as well on a straight bet with Utah, but I love this one under 57.5. Honestly, I see this one to be 51 points or less in this game. Go under Texas Tech, Utah.
Marco, quick follow-up question. I know you like Utah to win the Big 12. I like Texas Tech to win the Big 12. Do you think this is more of a game where Texas Tech gets exposed, or do you think this is more of a game where we could see a Big 12 conference preview?
Could be a Big 12 conference preview, but Kelly, where I think this is the coming out party for Utah. Everybody knows the money that Texas Tech spent to get to where they're at. Utah's still flying under the radar because of coming from the Pac-12 last year being their first year in the Big 12, and they had a bad year. They kind of got forgotten. That's why I thought there was so much value on this Utah team entering this season, but that value will be gone if they win this game in dominating fashion.
All righty, VR. We're going to move along. 3:30 Eastern here on the East Coast. Number 22, Auburn, 6.5-point underdog. At number 11, Oklahoma, 48.5. I really considered using Auburn here on my 3-team money line parlay. There was a lot of dogs I liked this week. Do you like the underdog in this one?
Nah, I bet the favorite here, Oklahoma. We actually laid 6.5 on Oklahoma. It's the public side. Rest assured, come Saturday, books are going to need the Auburn side, especially when you factor in all the teasers and moneyline parlays that'll be tied in with Oklahoma. But I still think to the right side, at anything less than a touchdown, I think we're getting some value there just because of the defense. The fact they were able to hold Michigan to 13 points, held Temple to 3 points. Really, really impressive. I think Auburn's going to have a lot of problems scoring against this Oklahoma offense. What they were able to do against Baylor and Ball State, it's not going to be as easy this time around against Oklahoma, especially on the road in Oklahoma. They've been very efficient. The way they've been able to control tempo and just extend drives, I think that's good. Again, going to be a problem for that Auburn defense to stop Oklahoma. And then I just don't see that offense putting up many points on this Oklahoma defense. Again, with home field advantage, anything less than a touchdown. I like the Oklahoma side. It's the public side, but I think it's the right side. Oklahoma, a little bit undervalued based on where their ranking is when you compare their power rating. And on the flip side, you have Auburn a little higher than what their power rating should reflect. So we even have a little bit of extra value there. So I'm going to lay the points with Oklahoma for my TV game.
Okay. I think that's probably the right side. I did look at Auburn and did not ultimately get to the window with that team. And another team I'm ultimately probably not going to get to the window on, but considered as well. 7:30 p.m. Eastern, number 9, Illinois. 4.5 point underdog, 5.5 point underdog. Check out the odds logic screen. Make sure you guys definitely shop around oddslogic.com/Kelly in Vegas. We're going to take on at number 19, Indiana. Total is 52.5. Before we get started, my good friend Todd Furman tweeted this yesterday. How rare is it for the Illini football and Indiana football to be good at the same time? Saturday is the first meeting in season history where both teams will be ranked in the AP poll. That is a wild stat. And I do agree with Todd that this has the makings of a thriller. And I really, really, really wanted to make a case for the dog here. But ultimately, I'm going to make a case for the under. I know I don't play a ton of totals here, but this is one of those games that is ticked up very, very quickly. And I think we're going to see some buyback on the other side. We know the Hoosiers are completely offensive minded there. And I understand why. Kirk Cignetti has this offense rolling, but keep in mind what is one of the most key numbers in college football. That's right. 51, 52 is also a key number. So going through both of those is something to take note of. I like this Indiana team. I like what we've seen, but I do think in order for Illinois to win this football game, they're going to have to step up defensively. I do think this is going to be one of those makings of a classic. This is going to come down to the wire and would not be surprised to see it settled by a field goal late, but over 52.5 is just too many. Give me that under. And I know it's a little scary with both of these offenses, but we're going to make it through. Let's get on over to VR now. Steam report, as I mentioned, odds logic, get that screen open before we let the dog off the leash to run. Get your pen and paper ready. And of course, guys, if you haven't hit that like button, please do so now. Also, make sure you subscribe so you never miss another episode of Bet On It on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. VR, take it away.
All right. Well, Wise Guys have come out of the gate on fire. We turned the profit in week 0, week 1, week 2, and hopefully that continues. I narrowed down some of the more marquee matchups and those moves that multiple groups got involved in, because again, there's just so much manipulation and so much two-way action on a lot of these NFL and college football lines because they're really, really tight. Let's start off with Thursday's action. 304 Charlotte plus 4.5, plus 3.5, and plus 3. Took it down through that key number. Friday, Tulsa plus 13 and plus 12.5. Couple sides for you on Saturday. 309 North Texas plus 2.5, plus 1, all the way to minus 1. So they flipped the favorite there. 320 Miami, Ohio plus the 3.5 and plus 3. Again, going through some key numbers. 340 Wisconsin minus 7 and then minus 7.5. Strong move on Wisconsin. 367, Michigan minus 1.5 and money line simultaneously. And then steam that game over at 44 and 44.5. 332, Duke minus 2 and 2.5. 322, East Carolina plus the touchdown and 7.5 there. And finally, last game on the board, 378, Hawaii plus the 3 and a hook and plus 3. So those are some of the early moves for college football that multiple groups are down on. And I didn't see any resistance, but still a lot of time between now and Saturday for things to continue.
All right, our most, we'll call it profitable segment, Barking Dogs, because that's what they've been doing. And that's what we're looking for each and every week here on Bet On is dogs that have a shot to win outright. Marco D'Angelo did not watch the same game I watched last weekend. I thought, hey, this is a great buy low spot on the Florida Gators. They want to fire Billy Napier. And then DJ Lagway threw more interceptions than I would versus an okay LSU defense. Marco, I had this game circled. I said, it's never going to make my parlay because it's like 3.5, 4. The Florida Gators are up to 8 with our good friends there at Circa. What is going on here? You're going to take the Gators plus the points, and you think they might even be worth a sprinkle here?
Yeah, Kelly, and this is a classic example of a angle. You know, I have my sandwich games. I have my trap games. I have the lose the same game twice. I have all these different Marco-isms, if you want to call them that. Well, this one is what I call an ABC game. And it's one of the reasons why John Q. Public loses so often betting sports. And this is how they're going to look at this game. They're going to go and say, okay, Team A, we're going to call them Florida, lost to Team B, we're going to call them South Florida. They lost 18-16. Then we're going to introduce Team C, Miami, who played Team B, also South Florida, and just trounced them 49-12. So the knee-jerk common reaction by average bettors is going to be, well, if Miami could destroy South Florida beat Florida, well, this is a no-brainer. Miami is just going to kill Florida, right? Wrong. Comparing common opponents is a huge mistake. You got to compare every game on its own merit. And when you go back and look at Florida, when they lost to South Florida, look at the situation. It was the first game of the year for Florida. South Florida already had a game under their belt. They upset Boise State. Was Florida looking past them? Probably, because they had LSU on deck, a much bigger game last week. So that's the negative that Florida had when they played South Florida. Now, for Miami of Florida, when they played South Florida, they caught them coming off a week where they probably were still partying from upsetting Big Brother Florida. In-state rivalry, knocking off one of the big teams. And they were playing their third top 25 team in 3 weeks, coming off back-to-back wins. Do you think Miami was going to look past them and not take them seriously? That was the wake-up call, and they came to play. And did they ever play? 49-12. It was a blowout win for Miami. Now, everybody, that's why this line is 7.5 and creeping to 8 at other places, because the public wants no part of Florida. Yeah, I watched the Florida game last week. They outgained LSU. 5 turnovers did them in. Now, can I guarantee you that they won't throw 5 turnovers again, picks this week? I can't, but I can tell you this much. The Miami defense is not as good as LSU's, that's for sure, and that still was a 10-point game with 5 turnovers. You have that many plus in turnovers, you're supposed to win by more than 10 points. I'm sorry. I'm taking Florida here. This one's going to go right down to the wire. Billy Napier is probably coaching for his job because after this one, he's got Texas on deck. He starts the season 0-4. He's out the door. Let's go with Florida. Give me the points. This line's going to continue to climb. No reason to run to the window right away. I think you'll get more points even as we get closer to the weekend and the public gets involved. But I like Florida plus the points. And, of course, it's Barking Dogs. You got to do a little sprinkle, Kelly, on Florida outright.
My stomach hurts. It does. It makes me not – this team, I was so high on them to start the season. I know VR liked them as well. What could go wrong? VR, a team that you and I both like, you have on your barking dog list as well. SMU.
Yep.
Worth a little sprinkle here to beat up on, we'll call it almost crosstown rival TCU.
Yeah, and Marco beat me to the play on Florida because I absolutely love it. I'm telling you right now, this is the time of year you could take advantage of this exact situation. Miami's not a top 5 college football team. Miami's not a top 10 college football team. Miami's not a top 15 or even a top 20 college football team as far as power rankings go. They're barely in the top 25. And I promise you, right behind them is Florida, maybe a slot or 2 down. They're not that far off. The record is the only big difference between the 2 teams. But as far as skill-wise, I agree with Marco 100%. But we're going to have to look elsewhere and try to make it 4 in a row on our live dogs. We hit a 410, a plus 150, and a plus 260. And got to go with SMU here because the bottom line is if you can slow TCU down and force them to where they're even more one-dimensional than they come into the game wanting to be, just throwing, it becomes a lot easier on your defense. And with SMU's ability to run the football, chew up clock, keep that TCU offense on the sidelines, if they could create some 3 and outs or not have to play from behind, they could win this game wire to wire. Like if they could get out ahead of TCU, then this is a very money line type of bet you want to have. The 7 points, I think, is a gift. I don't think it should be any more than maybe 3.5 or 4. Again, it just the path to victory is obvious. Force TCU to become even more one-dimensional, just throwing the football and run, which is what SMU does so well. And I think TCU is going to have problems slowing it down. And again, don't want to keep repeating myself. It's as simple as that. The TCU side is bigger favorite than they should. And it's another situation where early in the season, record means a lot. You know, if you're undefeated, and then you couple that with SMU not having covered a single game yet, even though they're 2-1 straight up, they've underperformed against the betting market. Again, this is a very efficient betting market that corrects itself. And this is what we're looking at, a correction here, getting a couple extra points. Give me SMU and sprinkle that money line as well.
Glad to hear that. I think this one's going to be a barn burner with SMU coming out on top. Here's a team that might not come out on top, but it's definitely worth a look. I had a good friend text me, I think it was on Monday, when I said, hey, I like this Maryland team. And he's like, are you kidding me? Wisconsin 4-0 since Maryland joined the Big Ten. And I'm like, yeah, but I think there's trouble there in Paradise, a.k.a. Madison, Wisconsin. This Wisconsin team has been struggling for the past 2 seasons. And those first four meetings, or only 4 meetings, the last one was in November 2022. Alabama got things right, of course, there with Wisconsin, 8.7 yards per play. Ty Simpson, 24 of 29, 382 yards and 4 touchdowns. Now, I'm not saying we should compare Maryland to Alabama. I would never. But Malik Washington has shown some flashes. Sure, Terps were favored by at least 2 touchdowns in these first 3 games. So maybe his numbers are a little inflated, but this is not the same Wisconsin defense that we've seen in years past. If Maryland can even give any sort of semblance to what the Crimson Tide did to that Badgers defense last week, this game is going to be a lot closer than the spread indicates. I like the +10. I think this is a double-digit barking dog this week. Look for Wisconsin to possibly lose that Alabama game twice. All right. Speaking of games losing twice here, Marco's got interesting angles every single week, whether it's a trap, whether it's a sandwich. Marco, I know those sandwich bets have been doing so well. You got another interesting angle for our audience for this week.
Absolutely, Kelly, as we go to the deli being open. And while we're here with the deli, I want to promote Marco's Deli. It's a show that we started last year, back for a second season. It comes out late on Thursday, and we're doing quite well. First 2 weeks, 7-3 total with these plays. I'll take 70%. And the beauty of that show and what we've done all along when we started bet on it, what we try to do is I don't want to just give you guys free plays. We want to educate you and let you go inside of how we handicap some of these games because, hey, we can give you a winner. You can bet that winner. But if we can teach you how to find winners on your own, that's going to make you a better handicapper. And this game right here is the perfect example of it. Let's talk Memphis playing Arkansas. They're playing host to them. And when I look at breaking down a game, especially on the college level, this game here has everything I like to look for. Let's start with the fact that we've got Arkansas is coming off a loss where they looked as good as you could possibly look in losing a game. And what I mean by that is they went up and down the field with top 15 Ole Miss. It was a 41-35 barn burner. The two teams just kept going back and forth scoring. I like fading teams coming off those type of games when they look very good and it was a high-scoring game. Then you throw in they're going from an underdog to a favorite. That's another spot that you like to look to fade those favorites. Then the saying, and Kelly, you alluded to it, about losing the same game twice. Well, this game could be the poster child for that theory because Arkansas was in that big shootout with Ole Miss, and now they're playing a team, Memphis, that they normally don't play. It's a non-conference game. How do you get excited about this particular ball game? That's where lose the same game twice theory comes in. You play a big game, you play your guts out and come out short. A lot of times you come out flat the next week, and that's a bad thing when you're laying points, especially on the road. But the real reason we're here and the reason it's in the sandwich section, the deli's open. We've got the blue plate special here. Not only are they coming off that gut-wrenching game against Ole Miss, but look at who's on the schedule next week. They play Notre Dame, okay? Now, I don't care what Notre Dame's record is on a given year. When you're a school and you've got Notre Dame on your schedule, that is a game you look forward to, especially when it's Notre Dame. You don't play them very often. You really get pumped up for that. So you're coming off Ole Miss. You got Notre Dame next week. How excited are you going to be for Memphis this week? This has everything I look at, Kelly. I've got to take Memphis plus the points. And this is a live dog. This one could have been in the barking dog section, but because of everything I just said with all of the angles, we had to get it into the deli and make it the sandwich game of the week. Memphis, 34-31 in a shocker.
Another game that I have on my long list for my 3-team underdog parlay. I feel like this is the week that I have hit more underdog parlays throughout history. I think it's like week 4, 5, and 6. So we're heating up, hopefully. And I love that VR and Marco agree with some of the plays that I also like. All right, guys, it's time for best bets. We're going to get right into it. We're going to let VR go first. Another total for you guys. VR almost swept the board last week. Let's see if he can do it again this week.
Yeah, so far 8-1 in college football through 3 weeks, and it's kind of reflected how the season's going on premium. It's just been a really good college football season so far, and it's early. This game isn't sexy, but we bet it immediately. I got down at under 51.5, gave it out to subscribers at under 51. I think you'd have to pay juice to get 51 now. It's 50.5. It's probably going to get lower. Anything above 50, you're still good. Gets down to 49, I'd probably lower bet size a little bit. Bottom line is this game sets up for a nice under. You have two teams that want to run the football. That's the bottom line. And even though Lafayette had success doing it and Eastern Michigan has given up a lot of yardage against the run, I don't think Lafayette's going to be able to put up a lot of points. Again, Eastern Michigan has been porous against the rush, allowing about 300 yards per game. But now you're going up against an offense that is run first, run second, and run third. So they know what they're preparing for. That makes it a little bit easier for, again, this porous defense versus the rush. On the flip side, even though Eastern Michigan's a little more balanced, they're going to want to run the football. That's where Louisiana Lafayette has been weakest on defense. So I think this is one of those games where we're going to see a lot of ball control offense. And more importantly, these aren't two teams that convert easily. even if they're able to move the football, as we've seen throughout the season, converting into points is another story. I think that's where the under comes in with the lack of success in the red zone for both of these teams. Just keep running that football, ticking that clock. And also we have a little recency bias. Both teams coming in off an over last week. That never hurts. Go under 50.5. Eastern Michigan, Louisiana, Lafayette. Best bet for this week's college football show.
All right, Marco D'Angelo, before you get into your best bet, can you let everybody know what the Weekend Warrior is over at WagerTalk.com?
Well, Kelly, we ran this special last week, and it was such a huge success that Gianni rolling it back this weekend. You can get all of Saturday and Sunday's football selections from your favorite handicapper for $49. And as a bonus, if that capper has a play on Monday Night Football, you'll get that included as a free bonus. And guys, if you took advantage of it with me last week, I told you I had a 5% play going. Well, we've got a 5% play going this week as well. Last week, that 5% play was North Texas. They won by a score of 59-10. We are now 32-13 with those 5% plays. We went 3-1 on Saturday. Come back on Sunday, Kelly, and I'm sure when we get to the NFL, you might have something to say about this game. We were half a point away from a 3-0 sweep. Our only loser on Sunday was Jacksonville, plus 3.5. The only time they were losing to the spread, well, was the final score that happened in the final 20 seconds of the game. That was fun. But that's another day, another story. We'll complain about that in the next show. For this week, head on over, grab that $49 special, and you'll get everything for the weekend. Now, for our best bet, and this is the one segment that we haven't done well so far this year. We got to get it heated up, and I think it starts this week. We're going to take a look at Boise State. I'm going to lay the 10 points with them against Air Force. Now, coming into the season, Boise State was a top 25 team. They were a lock to win the Mountain West Conference. And lo and behold, opening week, they go to South Florida, play in the heat, and lose to South Florida and drop out of the top 25. They come back the next week. They beat up on a cupcake, 51-14, Eastern Washington. So we haven't seen them since week 2. They've had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. I point that out for several reasons. When you're playing any of the service academies, Army, Navy, Air Force, and the option attack, it's tough to prepare for those games. But when there's a team that you play every year, like Boise and Air Force does, it's easier to prepare for those teams because you know it, you see it every year. When you throw in an extra week to prepare for them, that makes it even easier and better for the team preparing for that. And here's the facts in today's college football with the NILs. The service academies are going to be up against it, okay? Because they're not going to be able to spend millions of dollars on bringing kids into play, all right? Their gap is going to get wider. I think this number is a steal because if Boise doesn't lose that first game to South Florida and then rolls over Eastern Washington the way they did, this line's going to be like 14 instead of 10. And this Air Force team, they're just a shell of what they were. Now, yeah, they put up some impressive numbers, running the football. But I want to tell you, they lost to Utah State, okay? They gave up 49 points and 473 yards to Utah State. What's this Boise State offense going to do? How are they going to stop the run? How are they going to stop the pass? This is going to be name the score type of game. This is the conference opener for Boise, so they're going to be focused because all of their things are still in play. You run the table in the Mountain West, you're going to be in the college playoffs. That's what they're shooting for. I'm taking Boise. I'm laying the 10. And the problem with an Air Force team that can't throw the football on a regular basis is when you fall behind, that vaunted rushing attack becomes even less valuable. Let's go, Boise. Lay it. I'm going to call for a blowout, 41-20.
All right. I hope one of these games is a blowout for me. Just any one of them so that I don't have to sweat. an underdog outright winner this year. I just want a nice, easy rocking chair winner. Oh, wait, I got that last week with Vanderbilt. Hopefully I get it this week with North Carolina. I'm going to take the 6.5. And there's even some populating 7s here on the odds logic screen. So make sure you guys get the best of the number. I'm not going to lie. Mondays, I usually do my college football handicapping. I looked and I thought, is this a typo? Central Florida is a 6.5-point favorite over North Carolina because they're coming off a bye. Why on earth is this number in existence? So I had to do a little bit of deeper digging. UCF is beating Jacksonville State and North Carolina A&T. I get it. Bill Belichick's team looked so awful against TCU, but I still do not understand what the Golden Knights have done to deserve the kind of respect that they are getting in this betting market. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Let's keep in mind here, UCF lost 4 games at home this season. The bounce house is not what it once was. You're going to give me Bill Belichick a touchdown over Scott Frost? I'm going to take it. It's as simple as that. I think this line is way too high. I think North Carolina could have went to my barking dog segment, but I could see them losing this game in gut-wrenching fashion. How else would I take it? That being said, give me North Carolina plus the 7 here for my best bet in week 4 of college football. Thank you guys for hanging out with us every single week here on Bet On It. Again, hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed so you never miss another episode. I'm going to get that recap graphic up just for you guys who have requested. If you guys have another request, drop it in the comments section and we'll be sure to make some changes for you or tell you, no, we're going to keep it that way. All right, guys, if you missed the NFL edition of Bet On It, you guys can catch it right here. And of course, we're going to have that mega show up every single week for those of you that want the TNA, for those of you that want the stock watch from Teddy. And of course, if you guys are looking for Andy's prop shop, he was the proptologist here on the show for the last couple of years. You can catch Andy every single day on WagerTalk today here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. Good luck. And until next week, let's bet on it.